One other factor and a couple other things that I want to get to player prop wise before we get out of here, unless you have something else, Justin. Two player props I want to hit on, as I feel like I'm going to be killed by my girlfriend. I might be late to the airport, believe it or not.
Well, better rush through these props, Eli.
That's not going to go over well, my man. I think every podcast we've gone literally over. Yes. Yeah, you could bet the over and have cashed every single podcast. I just to give listeners some context. Right, exactly. I said, let's keep this 20, 30 minutes. So we have gone way over that market. My girlfriend is well aware of that at this point, and I will be too very shortly. Sorry. Adama Sanogo, player prop. I believe points prop. FanDuel has the only 16.5 in the market. Everywhere else is sitting 15.5, and he has gone over his point total in every single game. I just want to double check here where we're sitting as of this recording on Sunday afternoon. Let's see here. We got Andre Jackson. This is a bit of live recording for you who's never done something like this before. Adama Sanogo point total still 16.5, still juiced to the over. Now, we've hit on this a lot in the podcast so far, going up against the two-time Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year in Nathan Mensah. You have a rope too off the bench. Now, he's not as lengthy because he's still physical. And remember, these are two bigs going back to that San Diego State team that had a shot to get the 1 seed in the 2020 NCAA tournament that was, of course, canceled by, I think, first and foremost, the Big East tournament was the first tournament that shut down midway through. So just a funny note there with UConn being involved with the Big East and then the connection to this San Diego State team. But it goes back to the notion that these, and really just the fact that these Aztecs bigs are grown men. And Arope and Mensah are probably the two guys that hold true to that belief more so than not, more so than any of these other Aztecs players. Maybe Matt Bradley, because his size as a guard is absurd when he's getting into the paint. But long story short, I do think, and I'm not sure if I'm going to bet it just yet, but that's the best number on the board currently if you like the under. And I do think the Aztecs defense, interior defense, may not even have to double and trap Sanogo to limit him into half court. Difference is if Sanogo's able to rim run and get those transition opportunities. But if this game is more so played at San Diego State's pace, although they do want to get those live ball turnovers and get out in transition when those opportunities do arise. But in the half court, if the context of the conversation holds true to what Justin and I have discussed, I do think Sanogo goes under.
Yeah, I like it.
What about
shot quality data? Looks pretty similar as well. I mean, we had the 21 points against Miami to be a pretty big overperformance. We were expecting 15. Gonzaga, he scored 10. We expected 13. He put up 18 against Arkansas, expected 12. 24 against St. Mary's, expected 18. And 28 against Iona, expected 22. So number could definitely be a little higher than what the shots he's taking should average out to him scoring.
What about Jaden Ledee? That's another player that I look to. Still a low point prop considering, and the depth definitely plays a role here. And something we haven't discussed enough is both of these teams are just in terms of handicapping the game. Both of these teams have a ton of depth, and it does kind of cancel each other out. Although the Aztecs' ability to throw a bunch of bodies on you, if this game is played more at their tempo, I think kind of favors SDSU a little bit more, which might surprise some, but I do believe that. But back to Ledee.
What's the line on Ledee?
7.5.
Yeah, see, I'm with you. And what really, you're going over, right?
Yeah. Potentially. Yes. I don't know if I'm going to bet it just yet, but I do think those are two angles there with
so what? He's had 12, 6, and 12 in his last three against Alabama, Creighton, and FAU. Shot quality expected 12, 9, and 14. But what really sticks out, honestly, is that the possessions that he's had in his hand are way up. So only 7 and 4 possessions against Charleston and Furman. Now 11, 9, and 15 possessions against FAU. So getting close to 10 shots in these games, honestly, it feels like that should be a good number for him to get to a 7.5, 8 point line.
Yeah, I'm with you, man, of course. And you go back to the latter portion of the FAU game. I mean, how about that? That down 3 with under a minute to go, and great call by Dutcher, number one, not to call the timeout. I know I called him out on Twitter for it. And he, granted, we'll say prefacing, he was able to get his bigger defensive lineup in the game because May called the timeout. But regardless, still didn't call the timeout in the final 10 seconds of that game on the final possession, and I probably would have. But going back to my original point, San Diego State, number one, went 2 for 1, which put them in a position to not have to foul and play defense. But he went to Jaden Ledee in the mid-range to get off that shot, or in the low post, whichever one it was. Not Darian Trammell, not Matt Bradley, not Lamont Butler, but Jaden Ledee, an Ohio State and TCU transfer who has played exceptionally well over the last few games, which you mentioned, in the NCAA tournament. So and you also think about UConn's mid-range defense being arguably their biggest flaw, and they are exploitable in the low post. And something I did hit on too throughout this tournament, who is the most exploitable defender on this UConn team? It's Alex Caravan for me. I know he's gotten better defensively, but that is a matchup that I think SDSU could definitely get the best of if you're able to get those mismatches in the half court with Ledee in the mid range and in those in the paint, and with those paint touches with the hook shot, and also with Johnson for that matter. That's the thing. It's tricky with San Diego State props, especially with the front court guys, because they're so deep, and who knows who Dutcher is going to roll with in terms of who has the hot hand. A Rope could have a big game Monday night for all we know, hopefully, which is a tight game no matter who wins it. But I do think Ledee is the guy to go with if you are looking for a player prop.
It's a low enough number where, you know, if things maybe even go a little bit differently than expectation, he could still get there. So yeah, I'm with it. I haven't really been the biggest player prop guy this season. I know if you want a little sneak peek, honestly, since, you know, you guys at the Line's have been so cool having us on the show so much, we will have player props coming to Shot Quality. That model is currently in development. So eventually we'll be talking SQ props and SQ points and how players have been expected to do individually, not just team level. But it's a really interesting market, especially in college, because the variance is so wide open. Like so much could happen. It's not the same as like the NBA where guys are going to get their X number of looks. It really depends who has the hot hand, who's able to really take advantage of matchups. And I do think Ledee has a good opportunity here to get more than that 7 or 8 possession look that you want to get to 8 points.